Rees Shad. It's an unusual name, but it flows. Rees Shad. It like fills the room with this certain effort. Rees Shad is lovely. So, being a writer myself, I'm all about the alliteration. So to describe Rees, I would say that he's engaging, he's entertaining, he's inventive, and he's industrious. I wrote the bio for Rees, so you can really fill in the details. The timer's not on. I love this. No timer, so I can not worry about this. But more importantly, I mean, the bio and his credits are amazing. He's been an educator. He's come up with new games. He's written, God, he's got like 30 albums, and they're all so imaginative. He's amazing. But what I know about Rees Shad, I think, is equally important because I consider him a friend. And I will tell you this, that Rees Shad is the friend you've always wanted to have when you thought about what kind of person do I want to, be in my circle. It's Rees Shad. And when you think about maybe the brother that you wish you had, it would be Rees Shad. So he's an amazing guy, and again, I'm speaking from personal experience. He's funny, he's full of affirmation, he's just a lovely guy, and I'm so proud of him, and so proud that we're able to feature him as our keynote speaker. Putting a high bar, Rees, high bar, and I saw you at the bar last night, so I think you can feel that. Anyway, enough about that. I love him dearly. So, by God, Rees Shad.
Wow. Hi. Can't see anybody. It's very comfortable. Just talking in my mirror in the morning. First, thanks for everything, SERFA, and folk lines. There were years when I was making music in a recording studio by myself, and I lost touch with this tribe. And it's really great to be connected with you all. I was pretty damn shocked when I was called to do this thing called a Keynote. And even though I've been making music professionally for my entire life, I'm not really all that well known, right? I mean, that's part of the paradox of my professional life. It's testament to both my successes and my many failures. Since opening my first recording studio while still in college around, 4 decades ago, half my professional career has been spent as a full-time music person, playing, recording, producing, marketing, publishing, music of my own, but also music of other creators. Nurturing other creatives led me to understand the business better, but also to understand that I wanted to be an educator. And so I went off, got a degree, and spent 20 years as a college educator, all the time with the side hustle of still making music for people, putting out albums, producing music for film, etc. And it's been a great, great blessing. I've always been able to support my family, and that's an even greater blessing. I make music, I release the albums that I have wanted to make, with joy and never constrained to a given genre. With the exception of a couple of side projects and incidental music, I created most of my albums, most of my albums have been under the heading of Americana. When I say Americana, I mean what John Grimson meant by the phrase back in the mid-90s when John came to me and he said, "You're never really going to find a label that wants the kind of music you're making right now until they realize they can market it." And this is the term that we're going to start using. Because it covers those things between country music and folk music and bluegrass and LA and New York and whatever. So I expanded into making music that was sometimes electronic, an awful lot of exploration of jazz, of blues, and for some reason people seem to pay me to do it. And that has been the greatest blessing. Certainly my wife Pam would say that. To me, that there's something very, very important about a fundamental understanding of folk, of seeing the world and recognizing the world and reproducing stories from that world and of that world that make for engagement. To me, that engagement, the user experience, as we say in digital design, is foundational to folk music. And it's incredibly central to my professional ethos. Creating an experience where an audience will lean in to the story. It's an incredibly powerful gift for us to have, to get an audience to lean in and listen to what we have to say. It's a powerful thing. And as they say, with power comes responsibility. I'd like to talk this morning a bit about that responsibility, specifically our collective responsibility as creatives. But first, let's talk about me. I was adopted into a family of New York lawyers, and I survived. I grew up at a dinner table where rhetorical arguments were more common than butter on a butter plate. My mother was from Arkansas, my dad was from Utah, by way of Southern California, Hollywood to be exact. And while they were terrific friends, they embraced very, very different politics. And the dinner table at my home, well, there were differences that played out like a courtroom drama, literally. I grew up watching them argue pointedly, heatedly, but interestingly enough, with mutual respect. When my older sister got into the fray, things got really interesting. I realized that my mother wasn't actually the strident liberal my father had always labeled her as. She was the 1970s, moderate. My sister spoke out against the war in Vietnam, about the policies of Richard Nixon, against nuclear power. There were a lot of things to speak out about. And my sister had a voice. The volume at the table would get pretty damn loud, but nobody stormed away from the table. Nobody crossed the line into nasty personal insults. There was love for one another, and there was respect for the process of rhetorical exchange. You'll note that I have yet to mention my own involvement in the Shad family litigation dinners. I was 6 years younger than my sister, who, yes, did become a lawyer. And it took me a while to get into the fray. But for the most part, I was much less informed, but I was also really passionate about things that were being argued. When I had an opinion, I got a little hot under the collar, man. And my sister and my parents, well, they could cite the sources, they could debate issues with cerebral and dispassionate rhetoric. I tend to argue from the heart. I often broke down in tears, which is to say, at the Shad table, I was automatically disqualified. It was obvious early on that Rees wasn't going to law school and would be the one in the family to pursue more creative endeavors. To their credit, my family has always supported me in this. It took me years to come up to speed with the three of them in terms of rhetorical argument, but in the end, I was able to learn to hold my own. And that was probably one of the greatest Shad gifts to me. So back to my folks. My dad ended up being appointed to two important positions under two Republican presidents. Presidents who, by the way, were stridently opposed to abortion. My mother, on the other hand, spent 35 years pro bono working for Planned Parenthood. If you were listening earlier, you will remember that I am adopted into this family. While my mother fervently promoted family planning and fought for a woman's right to control her body. She also gave generously of her time and her money to nonprofit adoption groups. In some families, this would be seen as hypocritical. When your mom's, pro-choice, but she's adoption, maybe you wouldn't have happened. Well, I don't see it that way. And my mother wanted a woman to choose rather than be forced to do anything. She wanted me to recognize that the world is not black and white. Rather, that the human experience is defined in the grayscale. I tell you all this to illustrate that I was raised by a family of thinkers who could argue a point and still find commonality, and more importantly, love. It taught me to question authority, but with respectful civility. It taught me the importance of informing myself, doing the research, and just as importantly, it taught me to actually question myself. My mother used to say, when you point a finger at someone, you got three little ones pointing right back at you. She was teaching me that I needed to recognize the voice of my own failures and desires, speaking out when I heard. The personal investment that I might be glossing over, that it wasn't always about me. Thanks, Mom. While I've always been an artist, I'm also an academic. So while I trust and follow my heart, I work hard to analyze its motives. I endeavor to question my own belief systems as fervently as I do those of others. And this sort of exploration has provided me the grist for the mill that has helped me be as prolific in my songwriting and my creative life as I have. But why I'm bringing all this up is that I've always been comfortable with rhetorical conflict, with arguing a point in an ardent exchange of viewpoint, especially when it comes from different sides of an issue. Quite frankly, it freaks me out when a bunch of people I know agree with everything I think. But I'm also just as freaked out when people can't hear my side of the argument at all. When people don't hear anything that I say. Because I'm just enough of a narcissist to find that really feels insulting. And just as anxious enough to begin to believe that perhaps I'm absolutely wrong about everything. Fortunately, I'm old enough from experience to know that I'm right some of the time. And even my wife agrees with this, so I know it's fact. Between you and me, I think it's a way bigger issue than me having difficulty engaging with other people I meet in civil conversations. It's an endemic issue. There is an incredible bifurcation which has taken over our country. There is a profusion of division that has so many of us rejecting any and all middle ground. It reduces everything to simply polarity. The people ignoring civility and instead hurling epithets and supposed truth bombs at each other across these lines of division. If I can be completely honest, my exhaustion with this issue often brings me to tears. Yeah, I'm still using that argument. I'm going to cry. Hell, I started this speech crying because of this guy. I'm literally terrified for the futures of my grandchildren. All of whom are biracial, and each of which have a parent who immigrated to this country, who, along with having to deal with all of the environmental havoc that is undoubtedly coming down upon them, like a tsunami on a frickin' kayak, have to face the socio-political tide pool that is currently sucking under everything that has been great about our country. And threatening, literally, to rip my family apart geographically. My friends, my nightmares are debilitating. And then I come here. I come to a vocalize SERFA, NERFA, farm, even the biggie. And I gotta tell you that I'm heartened. Because I hear you. These gatherings, while populated by folks who are admittedly often leaning to the left of center, remind me that community still matters. Community can still be productive and kind and powerful. If you know me, you know I've worn a lot of hats in my life. And I've been lucky enough to learn along the way. I've been a businessman, I've been a musician, I've been out on the road as a singer-songwriter, built recording studios. I hoodwinked a woman to marry me and stay with me for almost half a century now. In fact, I played a small role in creating a couple of children with her who are smarter than I am, who remind me of that every time we have a meal. But those family gatherings, it's important to say, do not involve screaming and name calling across political lines. We don't get hurtful. Yeah, those political lines still exist in my family. Thanksgiving at my house, it's a wide range of people. We don't agree on Israel. We do not agree on immigration. We do not all agree on the necessity of unions in our country. Some of us are still wrestling with pronouns and trying to figure out what letter means what. To whom? We do not agree on socialized medicine. And yet, we talk it out. We recognize differences of opinion with respect, and we do not expect to convince another person of our beliefs by the end of the discussion. We hold this truth as self-evident. Human beings can learn from one another, and more often than not, we do. As an educator, I believe in the andragogy of inspiring empathy in order to widen another human being's awareness. Now, I know that's a big word that you probably have not even heard before. Andragogy. It's a terrific word. Andragogy, like pedagogy, describes the systems with which we teach. However, pedagogy refers primarily to systems with which we teach children, while andragogy includes adult education and often refers to systems involving self-directed and experiential learning. Simply put, for the purposes of my talk, it's less paternalistic, it's less preachy. Because I don't think you dictate empathy, but you can inspire. What I have found is that I can sing a song about a character who you might not otherwise relate to, and it will help inspire empathy for and with that character in the listener. I can get someone who is vehemently on the other side of an issue to look at the world from my point of view when I mask it in a parable, when I wrap it up in an engaging and somewhat relatable character. That, my friends, is the political discourse that we here can and should undertake as creatives. We need to let our art raise questions in the minds of our audiences that they might not otherwise consider. We need to sow the seeds of self-questioning in the extremists who wish to divide us as a country. And I'm talking about the extremists from both sides of the aisle. My mother used to say that without a middle ground, we're two separate continents. And folks, let's face it, these tectonic plates of extremism in our country are tearing us asunder, as they have not done since the 19th century. There are those who would argue that art needs to be direct, the extreme harsh reality. Look, the art and politics don't mix argument. While I understand it, I don't know. I guess I understand the need for escape. It's not like all my songs are about politics. There's usually something buried in there, though. Especially, I guess, in today's world. I think I'm getting more active with this because of this bifurcation that I'm experiencing. I believe that there's a balance, though, to be struck. We are entertainers, but we're also artists. And as dear Nina Simone said, an artist's duty is to reflect the times. To me, that means getting into the thick of it. The thick of it with stories and conflicts that we observe in the world. Politics, therefore, is not to be ignored. That said, I'm not a fan of overly didactic political songs. Songs that tell me what to think rather than inspire me to rethink what I think. The true craft of political art, in my opinion, obviously, is the subtlety of the lead. How we entice the audience to consider our perspective. How we seduce for our cause. As creatives, we need to do more than simply preach to the choir. The songs that change minds are the songs that shift empathy. They are the songs that touch the hearts with relatable characters in unrelatable situations. Don't tell your audiences what to do. Show them how it feels. For someone other than themselves, when whatever it is you are encouraging doesn't get them. Embrace the power of the narrative. Embrace the power of the parable. Some critics say that if you haven't experienced something, you've got no place writing about it. And folks, in my opinion, that's just lazy thinking. Arthur C. Clarke never got off the damn planet, but he gave us empathy for those on others. Dylan, as far as I know, is not a boxer, but he let us see the world through the eyes of a wrongfully accused prizefighter of color. No, Bob Dylan is not a black man. No, you don't have to be the subject of your story. You don't have to have lived it, but it is essential that you research and inform yourself so that you can create with an educated pen, driven by truth. But here's the with authenticity. When I use the word authenticity, many folks in the room are probably wondering, well, if you can't speak from experience, how can it be authentic? Well, in my mind, authenticity comes from passion. If you truly care about the subject, there is inherent authenticity. When I was 29, I wrote a song from the perspective of a 70-year-old widow, reminiscing about his dead wife. Now, at that point, I'd been married for less than a decade. I think maybe I pulled one or two gray hairs out of my ponytail. And all my joints were well oiled and did not just or give me pain. But the song connected with people. It's racked up literally millions of streams. I've been approached by widows and widowers around the world who have complimented me on the song, and even thanked me for verbalizing their anguish. An anguish that, thank God, I have yet to experience. Fiction, when well-informed and created with a well-defined, well-developed, and heartfelt voice, and it carries with it authenticity. So all you creators, consider this. Take your passions, inform yourselves, examine the arguments and the counter-arguments. Look for stories that will captivate, that will inspire question, and nurture the empathy. Nurture the empathy inherent in your listening, in order to guide them to new places, to new thoughts, toward the common ground we all so desperately need to meet. Margaret Atwood, the author of Handmaid's Tale, said that a word after a word after a word is power. And as I look out at Israel, I see an army of righteous storytellers. Right now, I'm like, you know, I sense a righteous group of storytellers out there, a battalion of wordsmiths, able to take on the responsibility of being agents of change. I hope I can rely on you. You can rely on me to join me in the force. Let your creative energy and our passion collectively bridge the divide, to encourage empathy, to inspire change. Please be kind, listening to my rap. All right. So, as I want to do, after I wrote that, I needed to consolidate it into a song. And I normally do not sing a song that's just written. It's not hours old, it's days old, but only a couple of days. I'm sorry I have to read my lyrics to you as I sing. This is a song called Power in Us. And then the power of tuning. Okay. Talking head TV and circles, it leads me to wonder if anything's true. Just like the riddle of me and you, there's a real crying out to be free. Iron or certainty, therefore discovery. We just need to get past that rust. Word after word after word is the power in us. Oh, word after word is the power in us. Stitching together the thoughts in my head, I'm certain of what I'll reveal. Trying to parse out what thoughts are real. It's a puzzle, I'm puzzled to death. Oh, I had time truism bubbles up, suddenly leaving me here in the dust. Was that my intention? Is that